Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss about the origin of agriculture. Archaeologists have divided the cultures of the past into ages based on the materials used for making tools. In Stone Age, it is divided into two. Old, which is the Paleolithic period, and another one is the New Stone Age, the Neolithic period. In Paleolithic society were dependent on foraging and hunting. So before agriculture, there is a Paleolithic period wherein humans depend on foraging and hunting. They forage foods like plants and animals for them to sustain their food. They are nomadic lifestyle. They move from one place to another place. The reason behind why they migrate is because there is only limited food in one area to sustain a small number of people. After this, Neolithic revolution exists about 10,000 years ago.
The prehistoric man lived for millions of years as a nomad, his community collecting fruit and roots. Then, man began to give preference to the cultivation of cereals, period. Man developed the ability to domesticate animals as well. The dog was one of the first to be domesticated, as it would be used as a working animal. These animals were domesticated in order to provide food for men, having also to reach their adulthood rapidly, thus increasing their productivity. Both agriculture and livestock served other purposes besides food. The animal's leather was used for several different purposes, both for clothing and the production of other items. And animals, like sheep, besides providing meat and milk, also supplied their wool. Vegetables, like flax and cotton, were also grown to serve as fabric. These small villages started to produce surpluses, trading and exchanging their products with other villages. Commerce began to slowly emerge, getting increasingly common over time. The mastery of these technologies created the basic conditions for the emergence of the first cities.
Foragers are skilled botanists. Foragers is a person or animal that searches widely for food or provisions.
Did you know that foragers is a person or animal who goes out in search of food or provisions of any kind? The ants you see are the foragers out looking for food and water, and they present only a very small number of the total colony.
Foragers know. Foragers know which plants are edible or poisonous, like cassava tubers and apple seeds, which are medicinal or psychoactive, which are sources of dyes, which used for weaving or building materials, remarkable methods to prepare edible foods from plants with toxins such as cassava, which contains hydrocyanic
Neolithic Revolution. About 10,000 years ago, archaeological evidence indicates that human cultures began the practice of agriculture in several different areas of the world. Over the next few thousand years in the Near East, the Far East, and Mesoamerica, agriculture flourished. Who discovered Neolithic Revolution? Gordon Childe coined the term Neolithic Revolution in 1935 to describe the radical and important period of change in which humans began cultivating plants, breeding animals for food, and forming permanent settlements.
The prehistoric man lived for millions of years as a nomad, his community collecting fruit and roots. Then, man began to give preference to the cultivation of cereals that would be used as a working animal. These animals were domesticated in order to provide food for men, having also to reach their adulthood rapidly, thus increasing their productivity. Both agriculture and livestock served other purposes besides food. The animal's leather was used for several different purposes, both for clothing and the production of other items. Small villages started to produce surpluses, trading and exchanging their products with other villages. Commerce began to slowly emerge, getting increasingly common over time. The mastery of these technologies created the basic conditions for the emergence of the first cities.
Why did people switch to agriculture after thousands of years of foraging? Legends among different groups, a gift from the gods, Egyptians, Greeks, and Aztecs. Many theories focus on a wise person or brilliant sage, the genius theory. If you sow seeds, a plant will grow. Dump head, discarded seeds at dump sites. Manure, good fertilizer. Primitive burial, bury food with the dead. Last three are all variation on the same theme. New theories. Beginning in 1960, archaeologists questioned the old theories. Agricultural was a gradual cultural evolution, not a revolution. Hunter-gatherers knew the wild plants, knew how they grew, and would incorporate farming along with foraging as part of an overall food collection strategy when necessary.
People knew plants. No need to cultivate because there was abundant food for foraging. Environmental change made the difference. Lots of suggestion as to what the environmental change was. Some say last ice age, some say population pressure. Whatever the cause, people began using their botanical knowledge in cultivation.
Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to report about the Far East. the agriculture in the Far East, the New World, and the agriculture in the New World. So let's start first in the Far East. Several locations in the Far East includes the countries of China and Thailand. It is believed that the Chinese civilization was first developed in the Yellow River in northern China. So there are two major rivers that played significant roles during this era, the Yangtze and the Yellow River valleys in China, which are very well cited sites. These major rivers were a great source of fresh water, food, fertile soil, and transportation. So the Yellow River is often called the cradle of Chinese civilization, where the rich yellow-colored soil was good for growing grain, called millet. So, additional information. Did you know that the Yangtze River is the longest river in China? This is also called a sorrow of China because it has been responsible for several deadly floods produced by this river, the only natural disaster in recorded history to kill more than 1 million lives. So, agriculture in the Far East. Current studies indicate that rice cultivation began approximately 11,500 years ago along middle reaches of the Yangtze River. So, farmers during this era lived along the Yangtze River, took advantage of the warm climate and rainy weather to grow rice. So, eventually, the land along the Yangtze becomes some of the most important and wealthy land in all of the ancient China. So, early Chinese farmers built small villages along the Yellow River. The rich yellow-colored soil was good for growing a grain called millet. So, the farmers of this area also raised cattle, sheep, and pigs. So, let's go now to the New World. So, there are various sites in Mexico and Peru. So, the best studied site is the Tihuacan Valley in the Central America. So, archaeological investigations in this valley over 25 year period have documented one of the few complete and unbroken cultural sequences for Middle America. The records that the scientists get from there identify that there is an evidence not only the domestication of basic new plants, include the corn, the squash, and the beans, but also the development of agriculture itself. So, the agriculture in the New World. So because of the arid conditions of the valley, it triggers innovation and creativity, originating one of the major technological advances in human history. So, during this era, local people have amassed an immense amount of traditional knowledge, including the names, uses, and ecological information on nearly 1,600 plant species. They also practice a variety of agricultural techniques, which include the care, management, and preservation of nearly 120 native plant species. Thank you.
Characteristics of domesticated plants. Domestication means wild species under human management. And characteristics of domesticated plants are genetically distinct from their wild ancestors in several morphological traits, most of which are associated with seed retention. This is common in fruits that are seedless. That's an example. In germination, they vary in growth, size, coloration, and edibility if nakakain ba siya, if it's etches of behavior. First domesticated plants were cereals, legumes, and other field crop species like fruits and natural selection. Occurs in crop populations where a plant takes up more water, nutrients, or light than the other. So we all know that these three are needs for a plant for them to be able to grow. And they compete for that, especially if they are in a closed space or nagkukumpulan sila. They are more adaptable under various conditions of the weather. They are able to survive without human intervention. Like they can grow without human help, without any fertilizers. Artificial selection. So these are usually the plants that are selected to reproduce. And ordinarily makes them more useful to man. And they make larger seeds, for example, sa beans or fruits, resulting to increased quality of harvest. And we continue to use this type of selection and purpose. Wild and domestic grains. Wild grasses have shattering, fruiting heads which break and scatter easily over a wide area. I remember when I was a kid, we usually play and gather those tiny black-like beans, and pinababa namin sa water, and we soak it in water, and they usually pops, and its seeds will scatter. I think that's an example of wild grasses. So there is a recessive gene that gives top spike with a non-shattering head, and it would be natural for early foragers. Foragers are the animals that usually search up for foods or provisions. You gather seeds attached to those top spikes.
In most part of the world, agriculture is an important source of livelihood. This entails hard work, but it contributes to the nation's food safety and health. Agriculture was the primary source of the economy prior to Industrial Revolution. With many trade options coming up, many are dependent on the income on agriculture. Agriculture is the most peaceful, environment-friendly method. It is a very reliable source of life for humanity, as well as one of the honest sources of income. Agriculture plays an essential role in sustaining and driving the economy. It's the backbone of everything that drives us. In addition to providing food and other raw materials, it also provides employment opportunities.
Other traits. Artificial selection would result to larger seeds or fruits or tuber. Over time, the domesticated varieties would be larger. Example of these are corn and potatoes, wood suitable for human needs. Along with these are wild barleys, has 2 rows of grains with domesticated varieties have 6 rows. As of today, we are still continuously using artificial selection. Centers of plant domestication. Since Kaya elaborated a more detailed approach to the analysis of the cultivated plants in their center of origin. As of the centers, there appear to be several major centers of origin in our domesticated crops. The majority are in the Old World. Fewer are in the New World. The areas show the greatest diversity of a particular crop. From here, most of the major crops are spread worldwide. Importance of centers of diversity. These centers show the greatest diversity. The genetic variation present is important. Genes for hardiness, genes for disease resistance, genes for drought tolerance may all be present among the variations. Scientists hunt for these sources of variation. These lead us to the end of the discussion. Thank you for listening.